In an old warehouse, young Isabelle wakes up trapped inside a huge glass box. Soon after, another young woman, apparently lifeless, is thrown to the ground next to her by a guy called Sebastian. It seems that Isabelle has been held prisoner for days, and Sebastian soon opens the glass box and takes her to a bathtub. She asks the man to let her go, but Sebastian remains silent and tells her to get into the water with him. In order to survive, Isabelle tries to win him over and kisses him, managing to emerge from the tub so that she can breathe. At that moment, she sees a piece of glass on the floor, and taking advantage of Sebastian's distraction, she attacks him, hitting his body and pushing him to the bottom of the tub. The criminal tries to get free, but the girl uses all her strength, until suddenly, Sebastian disappears into the bathtub. Years later, at a birthday party, Hannah tells her best friend Madison that she has been proposed to. The young woman is thrilled with the news, and Hannah calls her to the nearby lake because she has another surprise to tell her. Once there, she hugs Madison and invites her to be her maid of honor, and the girl accepts. The two then start planning the wedding details, but first Hannah has to go to the bathroom. Madison is waiting alone in front of the lake, when she accidentally slips on a glass bottle and falls unconscious to the ground. To make matters worse, she is thrown into the lake and wakes up minutes later in a bathtub in a dark room. Unable to understand how she ended up there, Madison looks around and sees a mysterious guy, completely wet and with the skin of a zombie, staring at her. The young woman screams in terror, but shortly afterwards she is woken up by Hannah and her friends Lauren and Kobe, who pull her out of the lake. Madison believes it was all just a bad dream, but the experience of almost drowning has developed in her a terrible fear of water. A year has passed since the incident, and Madison is in her room, crying in front of the window, watching the heavy rain outside. That same night, Hannah's wedding took place, but because of her fear of water, Madison didn't attend the ceremony. Hours later, Hannah appears in her room and is disgusted to realize that her best friend didn't go to the wedding. Madison tries to explain herself, but she screams in terror when she sees the same guy from her nightmare at the lake standing next to Hannah. Since that day, she has had visions and dreams involving the guy, but everyone thinks the girl is going crazy. Hannah then leaves, but first, she tells Madison to come to her house the next day, as the two of them need to talk about her condition. The next day, the young woman goes there, and as well as Lauren and Kobe, she meets Catherine, a girl with knowledge of the supernatural. This only makes Madison more confused, but Hannah asks her to listen to what Catherine has to say, as she suspects that an evil spirit is haunting her friend. The four then take Madison to the bathtub, where they intend to perform a ritual to drive away the evil spirit. In reality, it's all just an act organized by Hannah to make her friend get rid of her irrational fear of water. At the sight of the bathtub, Madison panics, but her friends insist that this is necessary for her to overcome her trauma. After much insistence, the young woman agrees, and the group gathers in a circle around the bathtub, with Catherine starting the ritual. She asks if there are any spirits around, and if so, they must give a sign of their presence. Catherine believes that nothing will happen, but to her surprise, one of the candles in front of the bathtub goes out. Nervous as she is, the young woman again asks a question, wondering if the spirit wishes to do Madison any harm. At that moment, nothing happens and Catherine is relieved, but all the lights in the bathroom suddenly go out. She then asks the girls not to break the circle, but Hannah rushes to turn on the light and explains to Madison that it was all a hoax. Catherine isn't so sure anymore, but Hannah insists that it was all planned to help her friend get rid of her fears. However, since the plan didn't work, she decides to try something more drastic and asks Madison to lie down in the bathtub. With her four friends by her side, the young woman agrees, but before she does, she once again sees the subject of her nightmares right in front of her. Nevertheless, with the help of the group, she gets into the tub and leaves her body completely submerged. For a moment, everyone believes that Madison has passed the test, but then she sees two hands grabbing her face and pulling her down, causing her to drown. Hannah and the others try to pull her out, but Madison seems to be being pulled by an invisible force. With no other choice, Lauren grabs the toilet seat and breaks the bathtub, causing the water to drain and saving Madison's life. They have no idea what has happened, but to Catherine's horror, she sees the evil spirit in the reflection of the mirror and tries to warn the others. However, Kobe and Hannah become enraged, believing that she has faked the whole absurd situation and throw her out of the house. As for Madison, she has had enough of the situation and decides to seek professional help. The next morning, she goes to see a psychologist, who only reinforces the idea that Madison's visions are the result of her mind, still tormented by the trauma of the past. This fear manifests itself through the image of the man in her dreams, and the sooner she gets rid of it, the quicker her rehabilitation will be. Despite the advice, Madison isn't convinced and decides to find another solution on her own. When she gets home, she searches for similar cases and finds an article about Sebastian Donner, a criminal known as the Drowner. Years ago, a young woman was also a victim of Sebastian, and her father, Henley Jacobs, wrote an article about the case. He hoped to help the authorities capture the criminal, but the Drowner has remained missing ever since. In search of answers, Madison contacts Henley and arranges a meeting at his house to find out more about the Drowner. Meanwhile, Catherine is in her house when she hears a strange noise coming from the basement. Holding her protective necklace, she goes downstairs and sees the washing machine moving on its own. She quickly removes the plug, but her necklace is pulled into the machine. Catherine then tries to take it back, but as she does so, a mysterious hand grabs her arm and tries to pull her into the water. Luckily, Catherine manages to free herself, but soon realizes that the haunting Madison saw is real. The young woman tries to contact her, but Madison is just finishing getting ready to meet Henley when she receives a visit from Hannah. Her friend apologizes for what happened, and even though she is skeptical about the existence of a haunting, Hannah promises to help her unravel the mystery. The two then drive to confirm that the Drowner's story is true. When they arrive at the address indicated, Madison meets Henley, a man who lives in isolation and has burn marks on his arms. She asks him about the criminal, but the memory of the tragedy with his daughter still disturbs him and he tells the two young women to leave. However, Madison insists and shows him a drawing she made of the guy, saying that he has been tormenting her in visions and nightmares. Henley soon recognizes the image of the criminal and tells her that in addition to her daughter, a neighbor named Isabelle was also captured by the Drowner. Unlike the other victims, she managed to resist and drowned him in her own bathtub. However, like Madison, the Drowner continued to appear to Isabelle through visions and drove her insane. She even set fire to her house and the Henley residence, believing that the criminal was all around her. After telling the whole story, the old man goes down to the basement and hands over all the evidence he collected during the investigation, but warns Madison that it's best to put the matter to one side. On the way back, Hannah calls Lauren and asks her to come to her house, as they need to talk about these new discoveries. Just then, Madison nods off in the car and wakes up in an old hallway, where she finds a strange creature inside an aquarium. As she approaches, she also hears the screams of a young woman being pulled into a bathtub. Madison tries to see who it is and meets the drowning man, who looks in her direction, causing her to wake up frightened back in the car. After this scare, the two friends head to Hannah's house to analyze the evidence gathered by Henley. Meanwhile, Lauren has just returned from the gym and drinks some water from her bottle, but soon afterwards she starts coughing, as if she were choking. Because of this, she ends up expelling the water onto the table and goes to get a towel to clean up. However, she notices something strange when she sees her headset sunk into the small puddle that has formed on the table. Before she can react, the earphone cable starts to pull and Lauren tries to free herself, but a hand emerges from the water and pulls her in. Soon after, she wakes up in the same bathtub that Madison saw in her nightmares. Frightened, she tries to find her way out and finds her cell phone on the floor, but it's out of range, and nearby, Lauren hears the sound of a door opening. As she approaches, she is surprised to see the Drowner and ends up slipping into a glass box. Shortly afterwards, the guy starts filling the box with water, to the point where Lauren is completely submerged. The girl tries to get out, but she slowly drowns and is eliminated by the evil entity. Back at Hannah's house, the two friends continue reading the notes when they find new information about the Drowner. According to witness accounts, Sebastian had a prolonged pregnancy, having been born after spending 19 months in his mother's womb. When asked about this, Sebastian claimed to have felt his mother's heartbeat while still inside her belly. The two friends continue to read the documents, while far away, Kobe is finishing his shift at the store where he works and receives a visit from Catherine. Still tormented by what happened in the basement, the girl tries to warn her that the evil spirit haunting Madison is real. Kobe doesn't believe her and tells Catherine to leave, without noticing that the taps in the store have started leaking for no apparent reason. Catherine insists she's telling the truth, but to her misfortune, the Drowner appears behind her and pulls her into the sink. She asks Kobe to help her, but the woman just watches her being pulled away and runs off, leaving her behind. Seconds later, Catherine wakes up in the bathtub to find the entity coming towards her. Clutching her protective necklace, the young woman recites incantations to defend herself, but it's no use. The Drowner then pushes her under the floor, taking her to a deep lake, where the girl tries to breathe at all costs. At that moment, the creature reaches out to feel its victim's heartbeat, in an attempt to replicate what it felt when it was still inside its mother's belly. Unaware of Lauren and Catherine's tragic fate, Hannah and Madison make dinner in the kitchen while listening to a tape of Isabelle's testimony. The two listen to the victim claim that, as well as being captured, she discovered months after her escape that she was pregnant with Sebastian's child. The recording continues and Hannah tries to call Lauren, but as she does so, a cell phone ringtone is heard from inside the kitchen. As she goes to the kitchen, she finds Lauren's cell phone in a puddle of water on the floor. As she turns her back, Hannah sees the drowner right behind Madison. The entity grabs the girl, but Hannah manages to save her by slamming the pot against the man's head. After that, the two run to the exit and the drowner tries to go after them, but he can't take another step when he sees that the floor is dry. Madison and Hannah seize the chance to escape, and on the way out they meet Kobe, who has come to tell them what happened in the store. She then comes across the drowner in front of her and realizes that everything Catherine tried to tell her was real. Unfortunately, she and Lauren have become victims of the drowner, and even though the three friends try to warn the police, no one will believe their story. They decide to take matters into their own hands and go to the psychiatric clinic where Isabelle has been admitted. When they get there, the trio go to see a doctor and ask for permission to speak to the patient. As Isabelle hasn't been visited for years, the doctor allows the girls to enter, as long as none of them are carrying anything flammable. In addition to the fires she has caused in the past, the patient also set fire to the clinic corridor after stealing a nurse's lighter. Because of this, the three undergo an inspection, and as soon as they receive authorization, they go to Isabelle's room. Inside, Madison asks her about Sebastian and how he became an evil spirit. Upon hearing this name, Isabelle reveals that, since losing his life, the drowning man has managed to manifest himself in the world of the living, and because of this, she set fire to her own house in an attempt to keep him away. Above all, she wanted to protect the life of her daughter, who is none other than Madison herself. It is then revealed that the girl is the daughter of Isabelle and Sebastian, but after telling them this, the patient becomes desperate and starts screaming, saying that the criminal will come after her. When they hear the screams, the nurses rush to take Isabelle back, and Madison leaves with Kobe and Hannah. However, before they take the elevator, Madison sees the hospital keys with the janitor, and without him noticing, she puts them in her pocket. The trio then enters the elevator, until Hannah feels a drip in the ceiling, and in a few seconds, the place begins to flood. The three try to escape through the emergency exit, but then the drowner appears and grabs Kobe's leg. The young woman tries to resist, but she is pulled away by the creature, which disappears with her, causing the water to pour out of the elevator opening. Afterwards, Hannah and Madison rush back to the car, terrified by what has just happened and fearing for Kobe's life. Madison then goes to look for more information among the archives and finds photos of the place where the disappearances took place. She realizes it's the same place she saw in her dreams and decides to go there with Hannah, hoping to find her friend still alive. The two of them have to go quickly, because Kobe has just been transported by the bathtub and finds herself in the same corridor where Catherine and Lauren were taken. She tries to find a way out, but behind her comes the drowner, who binds Kobe's neck with a steel chain and pulls her into a pit. In the meantime, Hannah speeds up the car and Madison finds some flares along with the documents. She decides to take them, because just as her mother tried to do in the past, fire could be the greatest weapon to defeat the entity. Finally, the two find the old house where Sebastian used to live and hurry to find Kobe. As they enter one of the rooms, they see a hole in the floor that leads to a basement, with Madison going ahead to see if the place is safe. Unfortunately, when it's Hannah's turn to go down, she is pulled back by Sebastian and disappears. At the same time, more water begins to fall through the opening in the basement, and without knowing what to do, Madison asks the drowner to take her, in exchange for letting her friend go. But nothing happens and the young woman goes down into the basement, where she finds the same bathtub she saw in her nightmares. Suddenly, the water inside the tub begins to churn, and when Madison hears Hannah's muffled cries, she reaches out to try to help her. Just then, the drowner's hands come out of the water and pull the girl into the bathtub. Madison feels like she's being transported to another reality and ends up in a deep lake, where she finds the lifeless bodies of Lauren, Kobe, and Catherine. After that, she manages to swim out of the bath and ends up in another room, where she finds Hannah inside a glass box. Soon, the box begins to fill with water and Madison tries to save her friend, but the box is completely sealed. Seeing Hannah drowning in front of her, Madison tries to find a way to get her out of the situation. After searching everywhere, she finds a tool on the shelf and uses it to knock against the box, causing the lid to open. Thanks to this, she pulls Hannah out of the water, but her friend has drowned and her heartbeat is getting weaker and weaker. Madison does her best to bring her back with heart massage, but her efforts are futile and her best friend loses her life in her arms. After this frightening scene, the drowner appears and jumps on Madison, his eyes fixed on the girl. But instead of attacking her, he lets her go and starts pulling Hannah's body towards the bathtub. Madison, however, asks him to let her say goodbye to her friend one last time. The young woman then hugs her and apologizes for letting this happen, but when the drowner tries to pull Hannah back, Madison attacks him, setting off the flares and hitting the entity's body. While the monster tries to get rid of them, Madison runs towards the bathtub and tries to use it to transport herself back to the real world. Despite her fear of water, she puts it aside and remains calm in a last-ditch effort to escape. As soon as he gets rid of the flares, the drowner starts to creep towards Madison, but she manages to escape just in time through the bathtub. When she gets out, she finds herself outside the entity's alternative reality and prepares to flee. However, the drowner also comes out of the bathtub and tries to pull the young woman back in, but she lights another flare and hits him straight in the throat. Thanks to this, Madison sends him back to where he came from and leaves the house, believing that she has finally rid herself of the evil entity for good. A few days later, the young woman is in a cafeteria with a full glass of water in front of her. Now that she has overcome her fear, she drinks the whole glass and then leaves the place, walking quietly in the rain. After a long walk, Madison arrives at the psychiatric clinic and sets off in search of her mother. Using the keys she got from the janitor, she manages to sneak into the place, and once the corridor is secure, she goes to Isabelle's room. Inside, the patient tells her that the police have come to talk to her, wanting to know what happened to the girls who were with Madison. Tragically, the girl reveals that her friends were eliminated, but she got her revenge by putting an end to the drowner once and for all. However, Isabelle tells her that the entity cannot be destroyed, and as she feared, Sebastian comes after Madison in a rage. The young girl promptly stands in front of her mother to protect her, and screams in terror as she realizes that her nightmare isn't over yet. Whether she and her mother managed to escape from the drowning man remains an unanswered question. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.